took me a while just to do those few words. But if there's anybody out there that's really good at kinetic typography, that would be a really cool way to do the videos and maybe get more people interested in and certainly people would. I agree with you that people would learn better if we've got the animated text, or even just the text to go with it.
Oh yeah, those visual cues.
Yeah. I think it helps reinforce it. Helps reinforce what you're talking about with multiple stimulation to your brain, so you can remember it, not just a one-time passing. Because I've heard it so many times, like talked about, but actually seeing it makes a difference, I think.
Yeah, and what we also do, I know because of the tech issues, we didn't have them narrowed down exactly what it was, but we had to close down the Skype. But we do have the No State Project Skype chat that has 289 people now.
Wow.
And most of us on there have actually gone to court before. So we've been through the lion's den. And so what we do have regular role-playing sessions for people. So if it's not just, hey, watch this video, dude, and you'll go kick the judges. It's watch the video, great, and now put that into action with other people, and it's like sparring. So after you've gone around with people a number of times, and you're used to the logical fallacies, you're used to identifying them and standing up for yourself, then when you go in, it actually happens. Yes, it's going to be nerve-wracking, but not to the degree, usually, if you've actually been sparring with us. So that's something I encourage you to do. So for those listening, I can't recommend this enough. We're going to start doing actually really encouraging people to do this in person, and maybe have call-in sessions to the show to encourage people to do that, to do role-playing sessions. And so you contact me at Frank Rizzo 3, that's Frank Rizzo with the number 3, and then we can put you into the chat.
And I think that there's logical fallacies, identifying logical fallacies is probably the #1 area where pro se litigants, especially people who find your website, come into the No State Project Skype chat, I think that's one of the things that they're going to need the most amount of work on, and that's the largest hurdle for them to overcome, that and objections. But I think, can you think of anything else where people need more work than identifying logical fallacies?
Well, the logical fallacy and the objections kind of go hand in hand, which makes it easier. I think what people need to do to really, because you can know the material pretty well, and a lot of people do, it's freezing up when you get into this stressful situation because you're not used to that. And that's why, like today, we were stressing, and I've been stressing for a long time, trying to encourage people in a very low-risk situation, like going to a city council meeting. You're going to ask a lot of the same questions, and you're going to have a much bigger audience. If you can go into the Tempe City Council meeting, which I've done a few times, if you can do it there, that's 5 of them. And they'll yell at you, but it's not like this. It's not the same thing. They'll get upset, but not like a judge, because the cameras are on. The judges are in, no one's going to see it. And so if you could go into there, you're going to be a lot less gun shy when you go into court, because the Tempe City Council, or like Scottsdale, is like 200 people in there. And that, I think, is one of the most valuable things that you can do, because you're doing a few things, like we mentioned. You're not just exposing the gun in the room and these people for being just a bunch of killers, thieves, and liars. You're learning how to better engage them yourself. So aside from just the showing people and demonstrating that they're just people, and that there's a double standard, and that they're killers, thieves, and liars, and we would be morally justified to strike everyone down. But you're learning how to go into court and defend yourself, and that to me is very valuable.
And speaking of which, I like last night we were talking about your speech. I really like how you planned the organization of the speech, and I think it's there to see. But we kind of went the jazz route, and we did a lot of examples of the Call of Shames. But just like with the No State Project traffic study, where you have a low risk environment, where you could get these questions out there and learn how to litigate on your own. The objective of the talk of journalistic activism journalism activism is that you can go into city council meetings and you can ask these questions of evidence in a public forum where it's very heavily populated with cameras rolling, and you run a very low risk of them actually flying off the handle and finding you in contempt. And even in the traffic study, you can be held in contempt because you're litigating. whereas in these city council meetings, you're not. And so once you, as a journalist, become familiar and asking these questions, and you're getting these responses, and you're holding their feet to the fire with their by countering their logical fallacies, that's a good way to prepare yourself to start defending yourself in court with traffic citations or any other trouble that you get from the state, because of course they want to criminalize as much as they can to ensure that their revenue streams keep coming in.
All in.
So I really appreciate how you wanted to set that up as far as getting people familiar with asking the questions. I can't imagine any more low risk of an environment than these city council meetings, and really putting the questions to them, and then after building your confidence there, expanding.
Well, the low risk you can get even lower, because like I mentioned, you don't have to go in person. You can do like I do
Over the phone.
Over the phone.
Right.
And that's why I mentioned you don't want to go through the PIO.
Now, when you're over the phone, though, I mean, of course, if you're recording it, then you can share it with people. But when you go into city council, you have an audience, and
Yes.
so those questions, so people hear those in real time, and they also see the bureaucrats responding like, "What the hell is this?" Because they can't answer the question.
Doing it in person is the best way, absolutely, because the people are seeing it and because of the audience, and that's what freaks people out. Somebody. He's not here. Was saying that something like 2/3 of people, are more afraid of speaking publicly than dying.
Yeah.
It was 2/3. Wow. I mean, I'm from Long Island. I have a big mouth. I'm half Sicilian. You run your mouth off. That's what you do. I can't imagine people having that much difficulty with public speaking, but they do. I mean, the guy in Alaska, James, did it. He did his best. He annihilated these witnesses. And it's just his public speaking, it wasn't his thing. That's why I encourage people, you need to do this. We want to expose people to this material, and because it's not going to get out into the mainstream until maybe someone comes out and they're like, look, 15 people going asking the same question. And they don't have a clue. These politicians looked, I mean, so you get these videos like, like, I know it's clickbait, but, city councilman gets owned by, 17-year-old.
And that'll be up and coming. A lot of the people that were at your talk seemed genuinely interested in understanding the material, and I think that they took the examples that were expressing the call of shames that we played, and they heard these guys just not being able to answer these questions. They heard the crickets chirping in the background, and so I think people that hear that in the audience and get feedback and get their questions answered are more inclined to go into court or not. Well, hopefully in court later on should the opportunity arise, but go into city council or ask these questions. We got these campaigns coming up in 2 more years. We're going to have another president, another Bush, Clinton, who knows what we'll get, Jeb, Hillary. It doesn't matter. And
No,
now,
but
what does matter is if we could get people who ask these questions to these candidates, and if somehow these questions get put to them, and can you imagine Hillary Clinton's face? If someone asked her what evidence that she has, her laws, not ours.
And she's a lawyer.
Right.
She doesn't have an excuse.
That's right.
Yeah, well, we'll finish this in the next segment. My name is Mark Stevens, joining me, Calvin, here at Libertopia 2014, and we'll be back discussing more journalism, activism when we get back here on LRN.FM in just a moment. Don't go away.